If you've ever judged someone before knowing their story, this one will stay with you till the very end. And if stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because what unfolds next is a reminder that life can change in a single, brave moment. Everyone noticed her the second they walked into the wedding hall, but not for the reasons she once dreamed of. She sat alone near the far corner, elegant and composed, in a silver-embroidered dress that caught the light every time she shifted slightly in her wheelchair. The music was loud, laughter echoed from every table, and couples moved across the dance floor like the world was perfectly balanced. Yet around her, there was an invisible silence. Some guests offered polite smiles, others whispered, and many simply looked away, unsure of how to meet the eyes of a woman who seemed powerful and fragile at the same time. She was the CEO of a global tech company, a woman who signed million-dollar deals before breakfast, yet tonight, at her own cousin's wedding, she felt smaller than she ever had in a boardroom. Her name was Alina Rahman, and once upon a time, weddings had been her favorite places. She loved the chaos, the promises, the hope. But that was before the accident. Before one rainy night stole her ability to walk and replaced it with years of surgeries, therapy, and quiet battles no headline ever mentioned. Success came later, built from grit and sleepless nights, but love had slowly learned to stay away. Invitations still came, of course. People admired her strength, her intelligence, her resilience. But admiration is not the same as companionship. And tonight, as she watched couples lean toward each other, whispering jokes and memories, the ache in her chest felt heavier than the chair beneath her. Across the hall, a man stood awkwardly near the dessert table, adjusting the collar of a suit he hadn't worn in years. His name was Daniel Brooks, a single father of a 7-year-old boy who was currently at home with a neighbor because weddings were too long and too loud for bedtime routines. Daniel hadn't planned on coming tonight. He'd been invited as a distant friend of the groom, and part of him wanted to stay home, folding tiny socks and packing school lunches for the next day. Since his wife passed away 3 years ago, social events felt like reminders of everything he'd lost. He came anyway, telling himself it was time to try being part of the world again. That was when he saw her. Not just the wheelchair, not the way people kept their distance, but the way she smiled at the couple dancing, as if she was genuinely happy for them, even while sitting alone. There was a quiet dignity about her, a strength that didn't demand attention but earned it. Daniel didn't know who she was. He didn't know about the company, the wealth, the influence. He only knew that something about her loneliness looked painfully familiar. He hesitated. The old doubts crept in. What if she didn't want to be approached? What if he said the wrong thing? What if people stared? Daniel had spent years learning how to be brave for his son, but this felt different. Still, he remembered a promise he once made to himself after losing his wife, that he wouldn't let fear decide his kindness. So he took a breath, walked across the room, and stopped in front of her. "Hi," he said, voice gentle but steady. "I know this might sound strange, but, would you be my date tonight?" Alina looked up, startled. For a moment, she thought she misheard him. Men didn't ask her that way anymore, casual, sincere, without pity or performance. She searched his face for signs of embarrassment or obligation and found none. Just nervous honesty. Around them, a few heads turned, curiosity flickering in their eyes. "You don't even know me," she replied softly. He smiled. "That's true. But I know what it looks like to feel alone in a room full of people." Something inside her shifted. She nodded, surprising herself as much as him. "All right," she said. "You can sit." They talked. At first, about small things, the food, the music, how long weddings seemed to last. Then, gradually, deeper truths slipped in. Alina spoke about building her company from a hospital bed, about learning to lead when the world expected her to retreat. Daniel talked about bedtime stories read through tears, about learning to braid hair and pack lunches while grieving. There was no awkwardness, no need to impress. Just two people allowing themselves to be seen.